so the first thing that you're going to do is to draw a sphere on your paper using your 4H pencil. We're using the 2 circles so that it's big enough. Trace around it lightly with your 4H pencil. Bring the template down to use it as a straight edge to draw in the table line. And then use your 4H pencil to draw in a shadow shape, a very light shadow shape that you will be able to erase. It is hard to see this on the video, but you should see that it will look like this if you have done it correctly. Next, take your little picture, flip it over, and write your name on the back. And your class period, and then flip it back over. All right, when we are getting started with our colored pencil, one of the things that we're learning that is new is that you are going to be using a color for the shadows. So you're going to use a color for the shadows for all of your work. What that means is you will be taking your neutral, and your neutral is either a gray espresso or it's a Parma violet. And you are going to use it to draw in and tone in the areas where there are shadows. So you need to make sure that underneath all of your colors, very, very light pressure, there is this same unifying dark color. When you are putting the color down on a flat surface, in order to make it look flat, you have to use horizontal strokes. When you are trying to put the color down on a rounded surface, like the spheres, you need to use rounded strokes and go around and with the curve of the object. That will help it to look three-dimensional. So we took our same little neutral color and added it all over in the background where it was dark, and additionally on the table and the shadow. This will cause unification in your picture. It will make everything look like it belongs in the same scene. After we did that, we switched to our lightest color. And for this one, because I'm doing warms, it was that warm yellow. And I added the warm yellow in the mid-tones all the way through to the dark tones. So I'm not going to put this bright yellow where it's pretty white in the highlight area of the sphere, but I am going to make sure that it's going through the background entirely, because none of that is white. It's going to go all through here. Take your time. I'm not going to put it all over the table because some parts of the table are darker and some are very, very white. And then I will add this yellow onto the sphere going in that rounded direction that we talked about. If you're using the green scheme, you would be using the mintier color. If you're using the blue scheme, you would be using the cloud blue or the sky blue that's very, very light to do this. So this is just because I'm using a warm scheme that I'm using the yellow. After we did that, we started to work with our next darkest, next brightest color, and for me, I'm using my orange for the midtones. And then the midtones are just not going to go as far into the yellow, right? They're only going to go where I can see in the example that it's a little bit darker. We won't blend until the end, so use the colors to lay them down gently together rather than trying to use a rescue strategy like a white or a colorless blender to make them go together. You need to add your colors in a sophisticated way so that they're blending on top of each other as you go. All right, so as you continue, the lightest color will go everywhere except for in the very, very white. Your middle colors are going to go into the darks. As you're laying them down, you need to make sure that you stay in one area for a long time so that it covers up the white of the paper. But you're using really light pressure to do this. It's not a heavy pressure situation because I want you to learn how to blend the colors. You can't push hard because they won't blend like I want them to. So you're going to make sure I'm turning my hand so that it goes around the sphere, and I'm making sure that I have even coverage of the orange into the dark tone of the sphere. And then I'm going to go ahead and go into the back, starting in my little shadow that's underneath the sphere. Adding my little orange in there and then continuing up. So the idea when you're using colored pencils is to really understand how the colors can lay on top of each other and make each other look more dimensional, or how they're going to interfere with each other. So I know that I can lay orange underneath anything that's going to be a real dark red, and it will still be okay in that same color family because they're analogous colors. And so the dark red will just make the orange look deeper. But if I were to put the orange all over where the yellow is, then the yellow will stop being yellow and it's going to turn orange instead. And I don't want to change the hue. I just want to make it look like it's changing gently from one color to the next. Filling in my spaces, making sure that I'm carefully getting to the edge. And now I think I'm ready to go in with my, I think I've got a carmine red. This carmine red looks a little red-orange. It's looking maybe even a little magenta-y. We'll see how it goes. I'm going back to the sphere, and I'm going to go into the sphere and really carefully pay attention to where the edge of the sphere is, because now that I have so much colored pencil on it, sometimes it's hard to see where the line is, which is good because we want it to look like it's all colored pencil and there aren't hard outlines interfering with it. Right, so I'm just going to go in here and be working with the next one. So if you're doing greens, this would be your Kelly green or your grass green. If you're doing blues, this is more like your denim blue or your true blue that you're using in there. And reds, you might have different red-orange colors that are called different things. Like there's a poppy red, this one's carmine, but it ends up looking like a red-orange. I'm going into the shadow, the cast shadow. I already put it on the core shadow. Remember, the core shadow is on the sphere, the cast shadow is on the table. And then now I'm heading in, and I'm going to try to concentrate it where I can see that it's darkest and let it fade out. So we're using really light pressure so that it will look like it fades. If you use heavy pressure or if you don't color in the same area long enough, it won't blend and fade. I'm going to go in and get it into the background as well. So make sure you have done that too. Here with this, and I'm going to go into these guys with my Crimson Lake, my actual red color. And when I'm doing my red color, it's not going to go all the way into the orange. It's just going to hang out down here in the red-orange area, in the areas where I can see that it's pretty dang dark. And I'm going to hang out down here, making it pretty dang dark as we go through. Making sure that it goes all the way to the edge, trying my best to make a very nice curve as best I can. Going around and making good coverage and hiding my stroke direction. Be blending, and I'm just using really, it's light to medium pressure. If I burnish, I can't layer. I'm going to keep it a little bit light at the very bottom of the sphere because of the reflected light. And then as I add it into the shadow, this red, this one is a crimson lake, so it's a very, very dark red. And making sure that it has a little reflected light, and then I let it fade out to orange at the edge of this shadow, the cast shadow. And I'm going to use some very light pressure. Heading in here, some super light pressure, but still kind of coating everything over to the right. And then I'm going over here, carefully maintaining the shape of my sphere. So he's fading in, he's looking pretty nice, but I know that I need some more orange because it's just not that visible and the red was really heavy. So I'm going to go back over with the orange to make sure that you can see that lovely rich orange, especially in the background, right? Where I don't want it to be very light. I can see with my reference that the background is a lot darker than the sphere. And it's pretty dark going right up to the sphere, but I have that light yellow going up to the sphere, and that is not correct. So I'm going to go in and get some orange going in so that it really accentuates the edge and is lighter. The idea in your colored pencils is that you are always layering. You're always putting more color on top of other color to adjust the way that it looks. I'm toning these in, but I'm going to just go really very, very lightly over the table color over here. I want it to be unified, but I also don't want to knock it down too much in tone. Into the sphere a little bit more, making sure that I'm layering and coding and coloring, describing, creating dimensionality with my colors. Okay. And that was just a judgment call because I looked at my picture and I couldn't see that orange and I knew that the red was just overpowering and wasn't blending through. So now I'm going to go in with the Tuscan red. If you have the warms, you have the Tuscan red for this purpose. If you have the cools, you have the indigo blue for this purpose. And what it's going to do is be your darkest tone and allow you to have the core of the shadow, the darkest area. So I'm going to go in with my Tuscan red and use a little more heavier pressure get that crisp corner, and then pull it out from the crisp edge so that it gets very dark. Nice and dark, and then I'm going to go into the cast shadow can get close to the reflected light, but not all the way. I pull it out with some light burnishing to get that dark shade to come out. And now I'm working on the table line. I'm doing the same thing with the table line over here with those dark. So keep blending, keep blending. Getting that Tuscan red up at the top, only where it's really, really dark. So you'll be doing this with your indigo blue. The last bits we're going to do are with the colorless blender and with the white. I'm going to use the white to blend the sphere, and I'm going to use the colorless blender in the background. You should not do this until I okay your little sphere. Let me check it for you before you start, okay? But what I'm going to do now that I have everything pretty well covered is I'm going to take my white, make sure it's clean, and start in the lightest area. And I'm going to use it to blend the colors, and it will make my sphere light, and it'll bring everybody together. But you've got to be careful with it so that the red doesn't drag into the yellow, as it will. Yellow can drag into red, no problem, but red can't get into yellow. Do this, and I'll come around in just a second to check yours to let you know if you're ready to do it. So the white goes onto the sphere, and you use it to blend. You can see how it makes all the colors go together, and it will actually lighten your sphere up a little bit, and it changes the overall look just a little bit. Okay. And I'm definitely using some heavy pressure now that I have the colors kind of set where they are. Now, after I do the white, I'm going to use the colorless blender, and I'm going to blend the background with the colorless blender. Go over, taking the background, trying to make it look flat and like a room. Tones, and then I don't know, guys, do you think that I should use the colorless blender on the bottom or just leave it? Colorless blender, I'm gonna give it a go. I'm just gonna do it and get it going on. Alrighty, all covered, all blended. Now, after you get it done to this degree, you can always go back in and continue layering just to see how that works. Like if I go in here with the Tuscan red and go over the top of the white, I'll be able to add another layer, really deepening it. Like it just will continue to take some color, but after you burnish with the white, it won't take a lot of color, because when you burnish, then it stops kind of accepting the stuff on top of it, but it still will a little bit. You can kind of get in there and make sure that it's nice and dark and lovely and continue to blend.